Avery was diagnosed autistic, okay? And if you may have noticed, as he sat here, he was doing these hand movements. His first language was sign language. So Avery, at 2.5 years old, could not speak, right? And as he developed, and actually our medical field, who diagnosed Avery and said, well, he is autistic, and this is where he is on the autistic spectrum, actually said, well, Miss Bell, at this point, we don't think that it will be even in our best interest, even as your insurance company, to lay out the money for him to have speech therapy or any type of therapy, because we don't believe that he can do anything other than where he is right now. So what that meant for me as a single mother, I had to teach him sign language. I had to kind of research my options and make life work for myself and my son. In doing that, I have met wonderful people such as Avery. Okay? So where the lights came in with Avery was a few months ago during the summer, we met at an expo. And I'm going to fast forward now a few years up. He's 9 years old and he's speaking. I managed to teach him sign language, which was his first words. And what I would do with sign language, as I taught him, I said the words. So I made him mimic them back to me. And for example, if he wanted juice or a cup, until he could do the action, but if he didn't actually try and say the word, he wasn't getting it. So he taught himself, with my assistance, how to speak. Well, with autism, as some of you may or may not know, there's a lot of social challenges. And one of Avery's social challenges was sitting still. So what Avery just did as he was speaking is amazing. That is since the lights. Avery would not have been able to sit there. His energy would have been all over the place, and he would have had to get up, walk around, scream. He had an issue with actually controlling himself. And so when I say energy can't be destroyed, what I know that the lights have done for him is able to allow him to channel his energy. Because he was able to sit here, communicate, look, you know, this is a great space. I'm kind of listening, but I don't really want to be here, without actually interrupting the speaker and creating total chaos in here, which a few months ago, trust me, a few months ago, that wasn't. So that was an actual testimony, him sitting here. We're at the expo, and Avery wanted to try it. Something within him just wanted to try it. He didn't know what it was called. He didn't know who Avery was. This was the first time that they were meeting, but he knew he had to be on it. So I was actually 2 aisles down. He was with my older daughter, and he came, got me, and dragged me and said, I need to be on this. So as any typical mom, I said, okay, no, I'm going back over here. Come on with me. And in the middle of the expo, as we went back to the booth that I was at, he looked at me and he said, Mom, you know what? I said, what? He said to me, I want to be a scientist. I want to be a microbiologist. And it is your, and I said, you do? Okay, that's cool, because I had heard this from him before. And he said to me, but it's going to be your job. I picked you as my mom because it's going to be your job to get me there. And I want to go on this table. So in that moment, I stopped and I thought about everything from where we were with the sign language, everything that I had gone through to just get him into that moment where he was comfortable being in a large space surrounded by people, because this is another thing about autism. Mm-hmm. They will have sensory overload. And I had him at an expo. And so this was a big deal to even get him to this point. And so I said, if he wants to be on this table, there has to be something in this table. So we go over to the table, and she She was like my little angel. She was like, sure, he can get on. And he got on the table, and he was on there for how many minutes?
3 minutes.
He was on there for 3 minutes, and he said, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And he just knew. And when he got off the table, but this was the amazing part, and I said, I'll think about it. We exchanged information. At that particular time, we had been working on his fine motor skills. So he had an issue with something as simple as tying his shoelace because it was a fine motor skill, or writing. Avery, he is very smart, very intelligent, but he types everything. Because holding a pencil and a pen, I don't know what it is about that fine motor energy skill. It was very hard. We went home that evening, and I was like, yeah, I got her number. I'm still in my own head. I get home, and I'm like, yeah, I do all my stuff. The next morning, I swear, this is what made me a believer. I got up that morning, and I said, we were going out, and I said to him, hey, Avery, because he would stammer. I said, did you tie your shoelace? And he turned. He was sitting at the bottom of the steps, and he turned and he looked up because I was at the top of the steps without stammering or missing a beat. He says, no, I'm fine. I remember how to do it now. And I said, I just stopped. I said, excuse me? He said, no, I'm fine. I remember how to do it now. I ran. I mean, I think I even missed some steps down, and I looked, and his shoelaces were perfectly tied. And I said, wait a second, how did you do that? Because I would always help him, and we would talk about the rabbit hole, and the loop has to go into the rabbit. And it was just this whole procedure. He was like, I told you I need to be on the lights. Mm-hmm. And it helps him redirect his energy. That's what, for me, that it really has done for him. He's able to sit, he's able to communicate without creating a fuss. Now, Avery sitting there is even even bigger testimony because he has not been on the lights for a month. Mm-hmm. For a month. Because we're into the holiday seasons and, you get busy. And I homeschool him. So he hasn't been on the lights for a month. And he is still sustaining the energy, but one thing he does ask me, when are we going back? Because I guess he hasn't, Calvary always says that for her, she knows when she gets to that point. I guess he hasn't gotten to that point, and I guess there's so much more he needs to do. But his writing has improved. I get him to write more and type. He's like 50% typing, 50% writing, and his stammering. His stammering has totally become less. He still stammers a little, but it is really a lot less than it was before. And for him, that is leaps and bounds, because I don't know if any of you have kids in the Georgia school system. They, in the school system, they say, well, there's nothing that we can do. He goes to his half an hour therapy and OT, and that's it. I'm really sorry, Miss Bell. So when he comes back and he's stammering less, even the therapist comes and says, what did you do? What? He's like, he's progressing. Because they will actually chart your child and tell you where your child will be. And I even had one therapist turn to me and she said, this may be as normal as he gets. And now he has totally blown her out of the water. And she's like, well, okay. Now she came back to me and said, yeah, he most probably may be able to be a microbiologist. Now that it changes, but it's up to the individual and how you use it. And the last thing that I want to say about the lights, if you do decide to try it, people say, well, what is it like? What should I expect? I would say go on the lights with no expectation. Just let it be. Just let the experience be what it will be. But after, I would say at least go on it once, because after you go on it, in the next few hours, the next day when you wake up, you will feel the difference. There'll be a difference. and it just varies for everybody.